wildlife, and he's going to explain what that title means.
Sometimes I have to interpret what it means to be director of interpretation. So yeah, Ky Harkey. So I work with our state parks here in Texas, which is part of Texas Parks and Wildlife. I'm the director of interpretation, which interpretation in this sense is referring to, like, you can think about museum interpretation. Sometimes I say education because it's simpler to understand, but interpretation, where it's coming from is helping someone to understand a deeper meaning. So we look at all of our state parks across here. We have interpreters, both people that sit and talk in front of a crowd, people that create signs, social media specialists, that are all interpreting in the sense that they're trying to help the public, Texas, understand why these different sites are important. If they're cultural resources, like out at the rock art at Waco Tanks, if they're natural resources like Colorado Bends, waterfalls and springs, we help them understand why they're important. We interpret why they're important. And I like to say we help them fall in love with state parks. We're in a fun business. So I'm here today because I've been to a lot of state parks. It's a fun thing to be invited to speak because you're a dirtbag who likes to spend time outside. So I've been to all these parks, and as I'm looking across the room and I'm seeing these name tags, I'm talking to people, I know that I'm not the only person in this room that's spent a lot of time outside. Before I dive too deep into just sharing some of the things that I know about, I just want to hear, kind of popcorn style, or maybe just raise your hand, we've got a big crowd. You came here tonight to hear something. What are you hoping to hear tonight? And I'll try to tweak some of the things I'm talking about based on what this crowd is excited about. Throw a hand up if there's something that you're really excited to hear about.
What are the best local hikes outside of, like, the Greenbelt?
Places to hit on a weekend.
Okay.
How would you find out more about Texas?
Good water spots that don't dry up.
That's
And you can share with everybody in this room, but no one else.
Great. As we're talking, we got some of these orange cards that are being passed around. They got some of our social media handles with Texas State Parks, and they've got in the back kind of a zoomed-in version of our hill country area parks. Anything else that y'all are really excited about hearing about tonight?
backpacking.
Backpacking. Good.
The Narrows.
Narrows. I can't speak too much to that, but I think I probably, like you, have heard of that. It sounds really cool. I've never been. Great. Okay. Then what I'll do is I'll talk about a couple things, but I think more than anything, I'm going to rely on the power of Google. So I'm hoping to leave you with a couple things that are worth Googling. Not just like a park name, but like bigger picture. Here are some resources that you can use to like help plan your next adventure, including you could Google Texas State Parks or get the app or look at a state park guide or anything. But there's also our municipalities, our county parks, our wildlife management areas, private lands, and so some conversations around that maybe will serve us well. So I'll start with just talking in the Austin area. Greenbelt, we got that covered. I will say that if you go to, if you look around, there is a great locally published map of the trails in the Greenbelt. It's not just the main trail. There is a very extensive network of trails that go off to different places in there. Particularly I know for mountain biking, but I know there's a lot of resources there. So there's probably twice as many trails in the Greenbelt as most people realize. Next on our list, and I'll do this throughout the course of the night a little bit. Thumbs up if you've heard of it. Like maybe I've heard of that, or thumbs up if I've been there. Maybe I've heard of it, or like, no, I haven't been there. I've never heard of that place before. Mckinney Falls State Park. Cool, a lot of us have been to it. Mckinney Falls State Park is right next to the airport. I grew up in Austin, and it wasn't until I was working for state parks that I went out there for the first time. I love McKinney Falls State Park. Just hitting the parking lot and walking 200 feet, you're in front of this maybe 5 or so foot tall waterfall. Onion Creek always got some good water. Generally has some really good water flowing through it. At the right water levels, at the right bacteria count, it's a really sweet swimming hole. Otherwise, I would not recommend swimming. And then we also have the lower falls down the street a little bit. In between Upper Falls and Lower Falls, we have a trail that has what's been voted Austin's favorite tree at one point, Old Baldy, I think it's called, a 500-year-old cypress tree. It was a sapling when Christopher Columbus landed in the Americas. So a really big and beautiful tree. Same trail also has got a really cool rock shelter on it. It was used by Native Americans as a shelter. Specifically to the trail systems here. I think there's a couple state park guides around. Let me just plug a resource real quick. The Texas State Parks app, or just the website, generally have two different kinds of maps. We have a facility map that will show you where your campsite is. And we have a trail map that will show you topography, distances of trails, trail junctions, and things like that. At McKinney Falls, there's a paved loop, 3-mile paved loop called Onion Creek Parkway, the Onion Creek Hike and Bike Trail. And that's where most people go. Because the other trail's a little hidden. You have to physically walk through Onion Creek to get over to the other trail system. And there's a network of trails back there. I think it's called the Homestead Trail. It's called the Homestead Trail because in Texas State Parks, real quick, we have 3 different big priorities. We have recreational resources like trails. We have natural resources like waterfalls. And we have cultural resources like the historic homestead at McKinney Falls. So a historic building that was used by, I think it's Thomas Mckinney, when he was a homesteader before Austin was Austin. So if you physically cross that creek and get into the Homestead Trail, you can see some really cool cultural sites, some really cool historic buildings, and a grist mill. And there's a big network of trails back there. Out of curiosity, if I say lollipop loop, do people know what that means? I just talked to somebody recently. It's not as common as I realized. If you picture a lollipop, a trail that goes out, goes into a loop, and comes back. So it's not quite a one-way trail. It's not quite a loop. It's a one-way to a loop and back. So the Homestead Trail has a main trail system. In the past 4 years or so, we've added a lollipop loop and then a lollipop loop off of that. So 2 lollipop loops on that. In fact, there you get to see Williamson Creek where it enters, some really cool cedar elm stands, all around a great spot. McKinney Falls State Park. Going out a little bit, Pedernales Falls State Park. Ever been there? Cool. Fairly good reception to Pedernales Falls State Park. Those of you that have been there, what are your favorite things about Pedernales Falls State Park? Just kind of shout it out. The falls.
Juniper Trail.
The Juniper Trail.
A nice beach.
Nice beach, cool.
Secret waterfall?
Do you remember the name?
I didn't know it had a name.
I haven't been there specifically, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Arrowhead Springs, maybe? Arrow Springs? I'll look at every once in a while. I'll probably look at Dale. Dale Blazing Gang is a professor at Texas State University. We work together, and he's been to every state park. And he went to every state park in a year, so he kind of knows his stuff. But yeah, some of the springs that feed the Pedernales River there make for great swimming holes. Anytime you're around a spring area, know it's a really fragile ecosystem. Sometimes we'll block them off if we don't allow access, but there are a lot of them that are accessible at Pedernales Falls. I think it's either Bay Springs or Arrowhead Springs. Some cool places to take a dip on a hot day. Wolf Mountain Trail is the big trail there. Kind of a big, you can drive a car down it. People will backpack into the primitive campsites along that and mountain bike along it. And then across the river, there's a big network of trails. Trail runners in the room? These two back here. Big destination for trail running, both recreationally and there's events that are held there. If not mistaken, Pedernales Falls backs up to Flat Rock Ranch, one of those two, and they'll sometimes do a full, larger network of trails in there. At Pedernales Falls State Park, It's prone to, just like any of our limestone drainages, it's prone to flash flooding. So there's parts of it, and that, and also people have been injured kind of sliding down certain falls. So some of the areas are closed to swimming, some of them are open to swimming. But a really lovely place. I'm going to go and talk about Inks Lake real quick. Who has not heard about Inks Lake is really excited about hearing about it? I'm going to talk about it anyways. Just because it's my favorite, I'll be quick. Inks Lake is one of my favorites, particularly as a great car camping site. You pull up, it's I think it's wrong to call it a constant level lake because it maybe fluctuates by a foot or so. But it'll have water at your campsite. If you have a campsite with water, it'll be there year round, even in bad drought years. So it's fun to set up camp, hop in, do some swimming from your campsite. I love it for that reason. I think it's called Pecan Flats. Makes a good loop in that area. And then the Devil's Water Hole is the main attraction there. You guys want a good geology joke? Nobody ever wants a geology joke. It's nice, don't take it for granted. So the rock, the rock there is called gneiss with a G, right? So you got these nice cliffs coming out on either side of this little cove. It's the Colorado River that's been dammed up to create Inks Lake, and you got these cliffs coming out on either side. If you choose to cliff jump there, please be careful. People injure themselves all the time cliff jumping, but it is something people do there. And some nice trails along there. And what's cool about a day trip perhaps there, maybe you start with a tour of Longhorn Caverns, which is nearby. You have guided tours through there, and they'll walk you through this, standing room cave. Obviously there's tons and tons of caves in the Austin Hill Country. They'll walk you through, you'll see places where they used to hold church services, caverns where people had been, hosted their weddings. Really a cool site. And then go over to Inks Lake after that, take a dip, do some hiking and everything.
Great river view hiking.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, that's Inks Lake. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to touch on Enchanted Rock just for a second, because it's Enchanted Rock. I think probably everyone's heard about it before. I will say, just as a reminder, if you go out this fall, they are constantly dealing with capacity issues. In general, this is kind of a nice problem to have, but our state park system is constantly dealing with the fact that we are really popular. Certain parks people want to come to all the time. And we are doing our best with limited staffing, but Enchanted Rock is one. Generally, if I go to Enchanted Rock for a day trip, I'm leaving at 6 a.m. from Austin, and I generally can get in without trouble. If you get too much later than that, you will be turned away or given a pink slip that says come back at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Go to Fredericksburg for the day and come back later. So fair warning on that, yeah.
So about Enchanted Rock, do you guys, I know it's like, do you know about the sky classification, whether it's for viewing stars? Do they host viewing, or do they stay open later when there's sun? Is that the right word?
Yes. Yeah, great question. Yes. A resource to put in your ear is if you search, Google search, Texas Parks and Wildlife events. Our rangers are hosting events in parks all the time. Specifically at Enchanted Rock, we've spent so much staff time rescuing people that get lost at night that we've closed the rock after dark. I think it's 30 minutes after sunset. The rock and any trail that's not the main trail is closed, which is done in the best interest of the staff and the public. I know that's not a popular decision always, but it is sometimes accessible on a full moon hike led by a ranger. Or recently was the Perseid Meteor shower. Yeah, they hosted, I think the San Antonio Astronomical Society came out and they'll set up telescopes. You can hike to the top of the rock. I think that one ran like 2 in the morning or something. Yeah. So, cool resource there. I'll quickly plug, if you go to Enchanted Rock, don't just hike the main dome. That's a really fun thing to do, but the main loop trail is great. I will hesitate to tell you my favorite spot at Enchanted Rock as a rock climber. There's a place. Well, there's a place called Turkey Peak. Thumbs up if you heard of Turkey Peak before. I know you've seen it if you haven't heard of it. It's this weird little finger of a rock, kind of on the northeast side of Enchanted Rock, of the main dome. And you can hike back there. It's kind of a scramble. You know, most people you see on there at one time, maybe 2 or 3 people. But generally, you can find it. You can get there by yourself, or you can get there and have it to yourself. Great spot to watch the sunrise if you're doing a camping trip out there. And just a really cool, you can sit back and you can watch this line of people hiking to the top of the main dome, and you're in this really cool summit by yourself. And then my favorite, my real secret spot is Buzzards Roost. It's out kind of near one of our primitive camping areas. And same thing, it's not quite the same peak that Turkey Peak is, but it's a cool spot. You can look out there and you just see, you know, with certain angles, you can look out and see nothing man-made. And that's a rare thing in the hill country, right? So if you go out, don't just hike the main dome, explore around. I'll plug real quick. Here's a resource to write down. Thumbs up if you've heard of Hip Camp. Yeah. I've never personally used Hip Camp, but I really like it. I like the idea a lot. And it's kind of like Airbnb for camping. So if Enchanted Rock, you really got to plan your trip out half a year in advance or more to get a campsite in Enchanted Rock. But don't let that deter you because Hip Camp, to camp in someone's private land, or nearby, there's a place called Frontier Outpost. Kind of a funky little bar, and they play music late at night, but you can get a campsite there. You camped there before. Cool place to check out. Enchanted Rock. Any questions, comments on that?
I want to mention about the dogs.
Dogs in state parks in general need to be on a leash, 6-foot leash or less, if I'm not mistaken. At Enchanted Rock specifically, we have, in all of our state parks, we have some really fragile ecosystems. At Enchanted Rock, just over and over, we had dogs that were not being cleaned up after, that were stepping in fragile vernal pools that had an ecosystem in themselves, and dogs that were having to be rescued because they were overheating on the trail. So again, a hard decision. That dogs are only allowed now on the main loop trail and in the parking lot, and I can't recall about campsites specifically.
I think campsites, you just can't take them on the summit trail.
You just can't take them on the summit trail. So plan accordingly. I know that would be really disappointing if you made it out there and you weren't aware of that rule. Thanks, Dale. Questions, comments on Enchanted Rock?
The pictures in the bathroom of the dogs are really effective. With like porcupine quills in there. I would never take that out.
Yeah.
I'm really selfish.
Little Dome too, as a quick side note. Little Dome is right across from Main Dome, and same size, a little shorter, a little less prominence in the peak itself, but you can get there and have that to yourself. It's really wild. Yeah.
Do people like to talk about like the little quasi-cave that's there at the top?
It's Boy Scouts hurt themselves a lot in it, but if y'all are making good decisions, it's fine. It's what's called the Talus Caves. There's a bunch of like boulders that are falling in on each other, different than like a limestone cave. But it's a super cool thing to explore around. There's spots that are, most of the time you get a little daylight in there, but there's spots where it is very dark. Have a headlamp with you. Don't bump your head. But when I was a Boy Scout growing up in Austin, the rumor was you could take the cave from the top and it would come out the porta potty in Echo Canyon. I'm still trying to find that cave. A really cool one there. Maybe I'll mention like another 2 or 3 state parks, and then I'll share a little bit what I know about some hill country area places that are not state parks. We'll talk a bit more about some other resources, and then we can break it into some question and answer or small group. So I will go next. This is what maybe one of the last hill country. Let's see. There's probably 2 things that could still be called a hill country hidden gem for a state park system. And one would be South Llano River State Park. All right. stumping y'all a little bit more. This is a well-traveled group. South Llano River State Park. It's out, it's past Fredericksburg. You hit Junction on I-10 and then go up a little further. South Llano River State Park is a really cool place. Last time I went there, I drove in at night. I had 3 little wild hog piglets run across the road in front of me. I saw wild turkey out there. It's great wildlife destination. Really cool trails. We had an old wildlife management area, which is another system that Parks and Wildlife manages. It's different than our state parks. It's generally more managed for hunting and fishing. We acquired that wildlife management area, so there's a whole network of trails back there. Pretty decent overall volume of trails at this site. And then, the river there, the South Llano River, is what's considered the second cleanest river in Texas. It's compared to, what's the #1 cleanest river in Texas?
Devil's River.
Devil's River. Really cool spot. We, as a quick ranger side note, sometimes we get the question, there's you can tube at the South Llano River. Sometimes we get the question of, hey, I put my kids in the tube here, but they haven't come back around yet. Where does the... So this is part of why we have our interpretation. People sometimes don't realize that our tube in a river in a state park is not a lazy river that circulates. It's an actual river. And that's why we're here to educate. As I'm talking, I'm gonna pass around this. If I recall, we do have number 14, a view of the river. Great big pecan trees along the river. Good place for kayaking around a little bit. The flow is generally low enough you can paddle upstream and then float it back downstream. And all around a good spot. Also, if it's not a big holiday weekend and you want to go camping last minute, this is one that I would check out. Which it is on its way to no longer being a hidden gem, but it's still not an Enchanted Rock. It's not a Colorado bit. So we're checking out. So quiz yourself a little bit. Look at a photo, see if you can identify what it is, and then the answers are on the back. The bottom has a cheat sheet to help you know some of the names. That one's the hill country. This one's all of our state parks.
You might want to mention that if you do go,
Please.
If you do go to South Llano River, there's like multiple exits on the highway for it, so it's best to put it in your GPS because it will get a little confusing when you see it says this exit, and then you go one more exit, and it says this exit. There's just multiple ways to get there, so don't let that throw you off. It's great.
We asked about dark skies and everything. So dark skies, we have at Big Bend Ranch State Park, I'll talk about that probably a little bit. We have one of the darkest skies, I think the darkest sky in Texas. I think the number is 80% of America's population has not seen the Milky Way. Like, let that sink in for a second, that's kind of wild. If you think about all the places in Texas where the Milky Way is not visible. South Llano River is a very dark sky. The rangers at that site said protecting our dark sky is something that's important to us. We want to celebrate our dark sky. They got a designation, International Dark Sky Association designation, as a dark sky site. And because they have that designation, it has influenced the local businesses in Junction to help create dark sky fixtures. A light that shines up in the air makes it harder to see the Milky Way. A light that shines just down can protect your opportunity to see the Milky Way. So another good reason to check out, if you're looking for, hey, this meteor shower is coming through, where's a good spot to go? Think about South Llano River. Cool. South Llano River. I'll mention Colorado Bend because it needs to be mentioned. Where are we at on that? A lot of people have heard about Colorado Bend. Very cool site. About 2 hours north on, hour and a half north on 183 and split from there. It is known, what I consider to be, don't let any of my state parks friends know this, but the second most beautiful waterfall in the state of Texas. The first one being, what would y'all guess? What's the most beautiful waterfall in Texas? I'm a sucker for Hamilton Pool. If you can get in. Gorman Falls at Colorado Bend. I had the pleasure of seeing Gorman Falls frozen over once. One of these days, several years back, it got to maybe 17 or 20 degrees or something. Gorman Falls is what people go to Colorado Bend to see. So like the main dome, don't limit yourself to just that. That's really cool. It's like people underestimate the hike all the time. It's only a mile and a half, but there's not a lot of shade. It's pretty rough terrain to get out there. But if you go there, take time to head down all the way into the park, down to the headquarters, where we're on the Colorado River. Surprise, surprise, Colorado Bend State Park. And you can hike over to Spicewood Springs. You hike in there, and this great spring feature, creating a lot of pools. The first pool, people get in there, they swim a whole lot. It's a really cool spot. If you just walk up one pool or two pool, you have it to yourself. And that whole trail system, there's a trail system that connects Spicewood Springs back towards the main trail system. Really cool features along there. Big sycamore trees out that way, and a lot of great spring features to take a look at. Tons of caving resources there. It's not a place you can go caving on your own very much, but you can go with a ranger. There's a bat emergence in the evening, just like there's a bat emergence on the bridge, a different kind of bat, and a really cool one to check out. And then also getting down there, maybe renting one of their kayaks and paddling around the Colorado River, a great day trip. Questions, comments on South Llano River or Colorado Bend? Cool. And I'll mention maybe one more and move us to some local parks outside of state parks. I guess I want to plug Palmetto. I think Palmetto is a pretty good hidden gem. Bass Drop and Bishop State Parks, totally cool, totally worth checking out. Yes, they got burned, but that's part of the ecosystem. It's still a really cool park. It's one of our parks that's built by the Civilian Conservation Corps, the CCC, 85 years ago. They built a lot of our parks. They had a lot of our national parks as well. And you can see some beautiful stone structures at Bass Drop, at Palmetto, at Inks Lake, built by the boys of the CCC. Palmetto is cool. It's on the San Marcos River. Again, CCC features there. A cool oxbow lake where the San Marcos River used to run, and like that to get used to that terrain. Palmetto State Park. Let's see, I think it was Predator that was filmed at Palmetto State Park. Tidbit for it. Cool. Central Texas State Parks. I'll maybe come back. Actually, I'll plug one more because we had a backpacking request. And that maybe this one's obvious. Lost Maples State Park. If you go there anytime but November, it's beautiful. It's a great place to go. It's a great place to get into. November, the leaves are turning. Go there Monday through Thursday. It's a very, very crowded park on the weekends in November. But to me, I think it's about an 8-mile loop. You can camp about 4 miles from the parking lot. It's a really cool, kind of like a nice, chill, hill country backpacking trip. If you've never backpacked before, it's a great option for that.
Any secrets other than weekdays in November?
To get into Lost Maples?
Yeah.
Man, it's like everybody knows, like, oh, fall foliage, let's go to Lost Maples. I will, let's see, I'll be thinking about different alternatives because you got
Guadalupe River State Park in Bulverde. If you do the river trail, so you go to the main part of the river and take a right, there's a trail that goes along the river, and as that goes down, I've honestly had better luck with foliage there than in Lost Maples. It's not a long trail, it's less than a mile, but you get down into those big, huge trees along the river, and you've got rapids in the river. It's just a really pretty spot.
I'll plug more on that, one more on that topic. It's not really consistent with the day trip thing, but it's Guadalupe Mountains National Park. It's a solid 8 hours to get out there. Tallest point in Texas at 8,700 feet or so. But they've got a lot of stands of either sugar maples, really beautiful kind of maroon color if you time them right. And again, it's way out there, but for fall foliage, it's definitely something to keep in mind. Cool. That's state parks. Let me just focus for a second on some other park systems that I'm aware of. I work for state parks. I know these well. I can answer a lot of questions afterwards. I'll go into what I know about Austin parks that are some, or what I see as hidden gems, and some Travis County parks, and maybe talk a little more resources, and then we can open it up to question and answer, and we can continue to get some great adventure recommendations from everyone else in the room. Sound good? So what are the Travis County parks that come to your mind? Parks that are managed by Travis County.
Reimers Ranch.
Reimers Ranch, exactly.
Pace Bend.
Pace Bend. Is that
LCRA.
LCRA? The Lower Colorado River Authority manages a lot of parks. I'm looking for Hamilton Pool as well. And then let's see if I remember this name. Out on the east side of town, I'll have to look it up. I can't remember it right now. Walter E. Long, thank you. Walter E. Long. Those are the four that I'm aware of. There probably are more. But if again, an hour or so here is not going to give you all the resources. But jot down some notes about things you want to Google afterwards. Travis County Parks. If you go out to Hamilton Pool, which my understanding now is that you need day reservations to get out there. I haven't been out there in a while, or at least not in the summertime. But right next to it is Reimers Ranch County Park. A lot of money from your tax dollars have gone in to build up the facilities there. It's a really, really cool park. Climbers know it as a climbing destination. Thumbs up if we've been to Reimers Ranch. All right. So, park in your car, you step down into this limestone drainage. It starts out no taller than me. And you walk down. And you walk down 100 feet or so, you got sycamore trees covering on all sides of you. And then you get to this spot, you start to see this grotto. This huge limestone roof that you can hike underneath. And there's this, I think it's called flowstone, where you watch the way that limestone or water with sediment has dripped for tens of thousands of years and created this what looks like a flowing rock. And above you, you have these Ky-sized hanging stalactites that rock climbers will go out there and climb on. It's really, really cool. Hiking further down the trail, you're in this limestone canyon, and you have, again, these hundreds of years old, huge cypress trees. Really, really lovely area. Reimers Ranch, R-E-I, County Park. Hike all the way down the river, go swimming, hike up and down the river, see a bunch of cliffs, see climbers doing their thing, hop in the river. And then there's a new climbing, actually that whole park has got a bigger trail system that's really mostly mountain biking. That's kind of like upland, away from the river, away from the cliffs. Cool spot for riding your bike around. And then there's another area called North Shore. Maybe the county, that's what climbers call it. Maybe the county calls it something a little different. North Banks, maybe. But again, more of the same. Walking up and down these big, beautiful limestone cliffs, big roofs, and everything. A great spot to check out, especially if you go out. Hamilton Pool, hoping to get in and get turned away. Reimers Ranch. Hamilton Pool, maybe doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. Go there midweek, go there in the wintertime. Just a gem. Beautiful thing. What do you got?
If you get turned away from Hamilton Pool and Reimers is not up your alley, the West Cape Preserve around the corner is really cool. It requires guided tours, I think, through most of the park, but it's similar to Hamilton Pool, just kind of smaller.
Yeah. As a quick plug, West Cape Preserve is a great partner to Texas Parks and Wildlife, and they've done just a tremendous amount of work to kind of mobilize different nonprofits that help people connect to the outdoors. West Cape Preserve. County parks in Texas. City of Austin parks. I guess a couple that I'll plug that I know personally and that I'd love to have feedback from other people. So beyond the Greenbelt, Greenbelt comes to mind. As I mentioned, there's a lot of other trails in the Greenbelt. A couple ones that come to mind. Walnut Creek, great spot for, I've used it for mountain biking, great spot for trail running. Although it's not a huge park in terms of acreage, a lot of trails there, and it's, besides the Greenbelt, it's one of the few spots, maybe immediately around Austin, where you can go out and you can run around for a little bit and think like, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. Like it is such a cool and deliberately created network of trails. It feels much bigger than it is, and I love that about it. Great, and I haven't been there in a while, but they've been putting in a multi-use trail, which my understanding is going to connect to, help me out if anybody knows more about this. I'm looking at you.
I know more about this actually. Like a personal plug here, I work for Shoal Creek Conservancy, and we're extending the Shoal Creek Trail so that it will extend all the way from Lady Bird Lake to connect with the Northern Walnut Creek Trail, that multi-use trail. So it's going to extend like from downtown all the way here to the domain. So we're developing the plan for that currently.
Do you know the timeline?
So we're gonna be in planning for like the next year, and then after that we're looking at a combination. It all depends on when we can get it funded. So it'll be looking at like public and private funds to fund the implementation. So probably a couple years between planning and implementation.
Great.
But yeah, look us up and we have all the information about that. But it's pretty cool.
And your name?
Nina Rinaldi.
Nina. Thank you, Nina, and all the other people behind the scenes, like making our limited public lands in Texas more accessible to us. Cool. So Walnut Creek, great resource up there. If you're a road biker, or if you want to just goof around on your bike, you'll hear multiple Walnut Creeks. There's, help me out if you know the name, Walnut Creek Metropolitan Park. I think it's the one that's over here off of Lamar and Yeager. And then there's the Southern Walnut Creek Trail. I don't know the geography, but I'm sure it's the same Walnut Creek. That from Go Valley Park, just kind of little playground, urban park, begins what's currently a 12-mile hike and bike trail, maybe about 8 or so feet across. Great spot for road biking. Road bikers use it a whole lot. If you're into rollerblading, that would also be a great spot for it, or just strolling around. And it goes out towards towards maybe the Palmer Event Center area, and then if you're a road biker, we'll connect even further beyond that to a lot of the trails towards Maynard. Last city of Austin one I'll plug, and then I'd love to hear some more thoughts, would be Commons Ford Ranch. I like these people that are like thumbs up all along the way. They've done their work. Commons Ford Ranch. It's been years since I've been out there, maybe even a decade. But it
used to be a lot quieter.
No longer is it. Help me out if you've been there recently. What I remember about it is it's on Lake Austin. Some big pecan trees, kind of a mix of that. Pecan trees along Lake Austin, and then your kind of classic ash juniper trail system beyond that. Any additions on that?
Not really. It's a really cool spot. If you can find quiet time, it's a fantastic space.
They don't advertise their trails very much, but you can find them. It's beautiful. And I don't think the trails are very long, but it's beautiful.
Commons Ford Park. Commons Ford Ranch? Or Commons Ford Park? Commons Ford
I
Ranch?
think Ranch Park.
I think it's Ranch Park. Great. Any other City of Austin Parks and Rec parks worth sharing with the group right now?
Turkey Creek's pretty good if you're going for hiking with your dog and stuff.
Can you tell us about that? I'm not familiar.
It's down towards Emma Long Park. So City Park Road heading down towards the lake, and it'll be on your right before you get to Emma Long Park. But I think it's like a 3 or 4 mile trail, and it's one of the few places in Austin you can legally hike with your dog off leash, I think. So that's a pretty cool spot.
Cool.
Say that name again?
Great, buddy. Yeah.
Turkey Creek.
But it's an island on it Colorado River? Yeah.
Yeah, it's way at the upper end of Lady Bird Lake, like just right below
You can go
Lake
kayaking
Austin.
there. People swim. I don't know if the bacterial levels are okay for that. People kayak there.
Yeah. Has anyone been to River? Is it River Run? River Place?
River Place.
River Place?
Yeah.
I had my wisdom teeth removed, and I was drugged up, and the nurse was talking to me about trails, and all I remember her saying was River Place. I haven't been out
It's
there.
an
Can you tell
awesome
us about
trail.
it?
Yeah, it's like you can enter it at either like the north side or the south side of the trail, and it's just like a vertical climb for 3 miles, just stairs, like all these stairs, and it's beautiful over there. Green. There's like a creek that runs alongside it. So if you plan to like go up, like you're gonna get quite a cardio workout. But you could also just like park a car on one side and just go down, and like if you had 2 cars or something.
Wild basin over there.
And it's shaded. It's shaded, so it's pretty.
It's
cool.
shady, yeah.
Nice.
Even in the summer, it's nice.
And I guess it's not a City of Austin place, right? Is it a
I
managed
think
by
like the community there, like
Yeah.
It's a neighborhood.
takes care of it.
River Place? What's it called, right?
It's a great training area if you're going to Colorado or Sierra or something.
I lost the train of thought in the River Place, and did you just say something else that we?
Wild basin.
Wild Basin. Can you tell us about Wild Basin?
It's the preserve, so if you're heading north on 360, it's just past Bee Cave on the right as you're going up the hill, but it's just a little nature preserve, and they've got I think closer to 6 to 7 miles of trail in there. It wasn't running when we went, but there's like a little waterfall down there, and it's got a pretty cool little scenic overlook of downtown from that area. I mean, it's pretty quiet. I don't think it gets a lot of traffic.
There's this park, I don't even know the name of it, but it's out 71, right past 130. I think it's a city park, and it's like there's like baseball field or softball fields and things like that. But and I think there's like a little butterfly trail. But if you go, I think if you go off trail, I'm not saying you should go off trail, but I think Onion Creek passes through there. You climb up this one hill, there's like a cemetery from like the 1800s. I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's out that area, 171 and 130. Like past the
I
airport.
passed by it as well, and I'm gonna take a stab at it.
Yeah.
I think it's a county park. Here's a Travis County.
Something like that. There's
I think it's like
dinosaur
maybe
bones. There's
southeast
dinosaur
Metropolitan or something
fossils
like
out there.
Is that right?
If there's softball field, yeah, it is southeast.
Southeast Metropolitan, is that what it is? Maybe,
Part
yeah.
of the park, and then maybe if you hike off of it.
Yeah. If you hike off trail, there's like no people there. I'm not saying you should hike off trail, but if you do.
The Violet Crown Trail, that's coming. It's going to be a big.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's kind of part of the Greenbelt, but I mean, it's going to definitely go a lot further.
Yeah, Violet Crown Trail. Talking about projects that are worth supporting in our community. A lot of people working a long time to make that a reality, which my understanding is going to be maybe it's a total of 30 miles or so.
We go to San Marcos.
Yeah, connecting basically Zilker Park to San Marcos.
You can right now. You can basically hike from Zilker Park all the way to the Wildflower Center. Now all the trails in place, semi-illegally.
Yeah.
There's another new park preserve. It's in East Austin, right on top of 183, and I think it's a really large park. A couple tens of acres, and they just turned it. The city council just voted it into a preserve, and they're gonna mend the trails so that people can run and bike in this area. But it's huge, and
Is
it's
it
right on the creek.
above or below the?
Yeah, it's something red preserve. But keep your ears open for that. It's gonna be a big trail park.
It's good that we're generally moving that direction of more, even though there's a lot of development in Austin, more places maybe are being designated and protected, at least these really special places. Cool. I got 3 that are on my mind, just like hill country stuff, and then maybe a little bit more, see what else is out there, and then I can dabble into some bigger like weekend destinations, things that I think are worth talking about, and then again we can roll into some more stuff.
Is there anything east worthwhile?
East of Austin.
Yes.
I'll talk city parks. Actually, I'll take that train on something. A couple private private recreation trail systems that I'm aware of. Oh shoot, what's it called? Out in Smithville, help me out if you know it, Rocky Hill Ranch. A lot of, again, kind of a mountain biking destination, that's how I know it. But we're Bastrop State Park, and Bisher is spelled Buscher, by the way, it's German. So I'm talking about Buscher State Park, have you seen that written down? Pronounced Bisher. Rocky Hill Ranch, private, again, it's a $10 per person entry, last time I was there. Beautiful pine trees still, like where maybe there's not as much as there used to be in Bastrop. There's still plenty, of course. That's kind of a cool spot, maybe a little bit of a hidden gem out that way. Here's one that probably most people haven't heard of. It's worth talking about out east. And I'll come back to this kind of private place thing. And that is Lake Somerville. Lake Somerville State Park. It got flooded pretty bad a couple years ago. Lake Somerville, the lake itself, provides the water to Brenham. So Lake Somerville is in all of our Bluebell ice cream. But it's a cool site. One of the things that I love about the most is we have different units in our state park system sometimes. So there's Lake Somerville Birch Creek unit and there's Nails Creek unit. And they're both by themselves kind of quiet, good wildlife parks, good lake parks. There's a 12-mile trail system connecting them. Check the website before you're out there because, again, they got hit by flood. I don't know the current status. But that comes to mind as in east of Texas, or east of Austin Park, as well as, let's see if I can stump anybody with this one, Monument Hill State Park. Mostly a cultural resources site. I won't go into that too much because it's kind of complicated, but protecting some cool cultural resources there. But it's up on this bluff above the Colorado River. Really cool spot to see the river and some trails out that way.
Yeah, you've got a beautiful view down of the old homestead, and then on the other part of the trail you see the river and LaGrange and the big railroad bridge. Two, I think, final things. I feel like I've been talking for a while. I want to take a back seat. Two final things, resources worth talking about, I think, are, I've only dabbled in this trail, but the Goodwater Trail in Georgetown. Y'all familiar with this? I guess it's the city of Georgetown that manages it. My understanding is it is a 26-mile loop around Lake Georgetown. Last time I was out there, I was mountain biking. I got very much humbled by the mountain biking trail. When it said like moderate difficulty, I think it was referring to moderate hiking difficulty, which for me as a mediocre mountain biking was very, very hard. But there on Lake Georgetown, cool, which I think is the dammed up, maybe South San Gabriel River, one of those two. Which on the other side of I-35, there's, I think it's Blue Hole, a little swimming area in Georgetown. But again, I think it's 26 miles. What I remember of it, some cool spring features, just good classic ash juniper and water features out that way. The Goodwater Trail on Lake Georgetown. And I think that's kind of what I think is worth focusing on right now, in my mind. Purgatory in San Marcos.
Yeah,
Purgatory Creek, for any of y'all who might travel to San Marcos occasionally, we've got a great little system of trails down there that's really popular with the students. Purgatory Creek, it's right off 35, take the Ranch Road 12 exit. There's parking on either side. You can go in at the north part and the south part of the park, and it's really pretty there.
Is it a day hike thing, or can you camp there?
Yeah, it's just a day hike. It's just a city park area, but it feels like you're out. Like it's one of those, like Ky was mentioning, where you feel like you're lost and you're not in the middle of a city. As far as I know, there's nowhere to camp there, but it's a really pretty. There's some nice picnic areas under trees, and it's really good.
So I think I'll wrap up, if this sounds good. I'll wrap up like kind of me up here lecturing with a couple resources just to jot down and have in your back pocket to do more research. And then I'll just be around for questions. And again, I think there's a lot of the resources, or all the people in the room have not been talking as much as I have. So resources, Texas State Parks, there's a lot of them out there. Find some that you never heard of and go visit them. There's some cool things out there. Texas Parks and Wildlife also manages wildlife management areas, WMAs. I've only been to one as a recreational user, Granger Lake, but they're out there. There's obviously times of the year that they're just hunting, but otherwise they tend to be hidden gems. Maybe they're not quite as accessible, maybe not quite as cool in some ways as a state park, but if you're looking to get out and explore some new territory, Google around for wildlife management areas, WMAs. City of Austin, of course, Travis County, HIP Camp. We don't think about Texas as a federal lands state, but we have actually plenty of national parks in Texas, a lot of which are historic sites and national seashores and things like that. Big Bend National Park, Big Bend Ranch State Park is right next to it. I'll talk about that in small group if you want to. Big Bend National Park is out here. Guadalupe Mountains out here, the tallest peak in Texas. So all of our federal lands, including our national forest, that include the Lone Star Trail. Have you heard of it? It is our national National Scenic Trail in Texas, about 100 miles of continuous trail up there. That connects around Huntsville State Park into all the national forest lands out there. The national forests are a totally different vibe. It's like big trees. You won't see park rangers around. A cool and different vibe in the state park.
Huntsville's another great foliage park in the fall.
That HIP camp, those are a lot of the resources that come to mind for some additional Googling. Plus, I'll be around a bit later.
One that I didn't hear you bring up that I went to a few months ago was Government Canyon.
Cool, yeah.
And if you're into dinosaur tracks, it's like incredible because you go down this riverbed. There's hundreds of like huge dinosaur tracks in the riverbed that you can just walk by.
Yeah.
Kind of blew me away.
Yeah.
It's in San Antonio. That's another dog park to be careful of. Dogs are not allowed near the dinosaur tracks, but they're only allowed, I believe it's the front country or the back country. I get them confused, but yeah, they're only allowed in one park, so just be aware of that.
Cool. I'll be up here. I live to talk about adventures, and there's a lot more I'd love to talk about if you're interested in backpacking, weekend trips, Houston area, Northeast Texas, West Texas parks. I'll be around. Mary, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for everyone for coming. Definitely. If you want to go around and definitely get a chance to meet somebody you haven't met before, everyone's got their name tags, so they have everyone has something that they want to learn about. So see if you can teach them about what you already know about. Ky will be up here for a little while too. Don't forget, if you tag Mappy Hour ATX on Instagram, we're still giving away a backpack. So let us know. Thanks again.